Hey guys, welcome to She Knows Arsenal. My name is Jessica. I'm your host. You can follow me on Twitter at It's Jessinho, which is right there. And She Knows Arsenal podcast, post match podcast, episode 14. We're going to be talking about the Manchester United game, obviously. And you're probably feeling like this is the last thing that you want to talk about. And to be honest, it's probably the last thing I want to talk about. But my job is to bring the content forward. So I'm not going to shy away from it and take a day off. We are going to analyze that game. And I had the opportunity, it was part of my job to rewatch that game. And I do feel a little bit differently about some of the things that I saw yesterday. Not any better, but I feel like there are some things that we can talk about in regards to Mikel Arteta that probably influenced the way this game went. And I ultimately come away from rewatching that game feeling like same old Arsenal. This is the same old Arsenal over the past however many years. It's just when we have a really good opportunity to take advantage of a team that's not playing well, we just can't seem to get it over the line. And there wasn't a lot of like Gooners that were really positive, or not positive, but confident going into this game. And we should have felt more confident. We were the team in form, they were the team out of form. And even though it's a tough game away at Old Trafford, when you really watch that game, the reason why it's so disheartening is because they were really bad. Like, that was not a good Man United team. It was not the old teams, where you go to Old Trafford and you just know it's going to be super difficult. We cut through them when we decided to play, which was in very small parts of that game. We cut right through them. They weren't great, and had we been a little bit more clinical, we probably would have scored more goals. But ultimately, giving up 3 goals to that Man United side, and ultimately, I felt like 2 of those goals we gave to them, it's really disappointing, and it makes you question, even though we are in and around the top 4 and we're in 5th place, how good are we? How good are we really? We've yet to take any points from our bigger games. Now, I think the City game and the Liverpool game, that those teams are superior to us, but this feels like a little bit of a wake-up call for us in and it feels like a lot of people are coming to that conclusion that maybe we're not as good as we think we are, and we have to ask more questions of this team and Mikel Arteta, because even though it feels like we might be going in a good direction, yesterday's game, that wasn't right. That wasn't right. I didn't feel any better watching it the second time around, and usually I do, which means that it really was bad. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and bring in my guest for today. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel, all of those great and wonderful things. And let's get started. Ayo's here with me. Hey, Ayo.
Hey, what's up, girl?
So, what happened
I'm
to
in
you yesterday?
Manchester. I'm in
You were
Manchester.
supposed to go to the game, and
Yeah,
you
I
didn't
was
end up
supposed to
going.
go to the game. So, right, let me break it down real quick. So, got my ticket to Manchester. Let's have ya. Come on, you gooners. Got here. My boy who I was supposed to go with, I think he got a bit ill, might be COVID, bless him. And he had the plug. I reached out to the plug. The plug told me, "Oh, sorry, I didn't hear back. I sold the ticket, but this guy might have one." So I called the other guy. I said, "Yeah, what's up? Want a ticket?" He was like, "Yeah, £200, mate." And I was just like, "Yeah, I'm not paying that if we lose. I won't be able to live with myself." And lo and behold, here we are. So I'm still
Man,
in Manchester. I'm still in Manchester, believe it or not. I'll come back
Mhm.
tomorrow. But yeah, the vibes, I'm not feeling the vibes right now in Manchester, but it is what it is.
The whole point of bringing Ayo onto the show for today was because he was supposed to be able to give me like insight from inside Old Trafford. So now I'm like, why are you here? No, just joking. Love spending time with
Nah,
you. You know I do.
I hear you. I hear
But
you.
I'm
I
like,
hear you.
there's a
I
little
hear
bit of
you.
that I felt like I haven't gotten what I paid for. So you should have still went. You should have paid the
Yeah.
money.
Yeah, I should have paid the money. Yeah, not eating for a few weeks. Yeah, nah, nah. No, thank you.
Oh my goodness. But yeah, so you're in Manchester, which is good enough, I guess. it doesn't feel better today, does it? Usually after a game, you can kind of look at it like when I rewatched the Liverpool match, I thought, okay, in the first half, we were a lot better than I thought.
Mm,
In this game, when I rewatched it, I thought that was a bad Man United team, but you could probably say that we were worse than them, you know, like in
mm,
the way that we played, and so when you rewatch the game, just in general, when you watched the first time, you watched it again, what happened? Like, what tell me what you're thinking, because I'm still like, I'm baffled, because it's making me, in most games when you lose, you start to get all super dramatic and be like, oh my gosh, it's all over. But this game in particular feels like a real wake up call to make us sit down and really evaluate how good Arsenal really are.
mm,
Because a team that's supposed to be really good defensively has just given up 3 goals to Man United,
mm, mm,
4 goals to Liverpool. What's that all
mm.
about? And we were conservative. It wasn't like we went for it, but we still gave up 3 goals. So what does that say about us? What do you think? Like, just give me your raw feelings, after rewatching that game.
Well, to be honest, Jess, I feel slightly different. And the reason why I feel different, last time we were in Manchester, we know how it went down at the Etihad. And if you were to contrast, or if you were to compare those two games, I think there's a stark contrast with those two games. And I definitely did not have the feeling watching it live and even watching it back, which I did earlier today, as with playing against City. So to be honest, in my honest opinion, I think it boils down to two things. I think it boils down to them just having midfield on lock. And I know you want to talk about the midfield later on, but then also part of that, key players in the midfield, Party, and also, our captain, Aubameyang. Like near the end of the game, how many chances did he miss? He just, yeah, I'm done with the guy. And we all know about, today it's all been on social media. Everyone's been blowing up. And for me, once I saw that, I only saw it this morning, and shout out to AFTV. I saw the tweet where they had a screenshot of him liking CR7's post on IG. Once I saw that, I'm done. I'm done with him. I'm done with him. Wash my hands. Like, Aubameyang is dead to me. So it's come to an end now for me. Like, he's on 4 goals. We were talking before we went live. I'm expecting him to be on 12, 13, 14, 15 goals right now. He's on 4 goals. Yeah, he's on 4 goals. He's collecting 350,000 odd pounds per week. He's on 4 goals. He's the captain of Arsenal Football Club. And he's liking, he just got banged. He's either in the changing room, or he's on the coach, or he's on somewhere. And the first thing he does, instead of him to be inconsolable, the first thing he does is go to his phone. Oh, look, CR7 celebrating, just banging us. I like that. Are you crazy, bruv? Like, sorry, I'm trying to not get triggered, but the more I think about it, just like, he don't love this club. Like, you don't do that. I'm sorry, you don't do that as captain. Like, I would forgive him if he wasn't captain. It'll be like the Xhaka thing. I'll forgive him.
Mm.
He just wasn't thinking, but he's the captain of the football club. They just banged you. You're liking it. Like, you're liking it, bruv. This is Arsenal Football Club. This isn't Tottenham Hotspur, This isn't no newly promoted team. This is Arsenal Football Club. Like, nah, I'm done with him. I'm done
No,
with
I hear that, and I guess for me, it's, yeah, like an Arsenal player liking a United player's post is not, it's not like, yeah, this crazy thing, but it's the way that it looks. It's the way that it looks,
no
and
respect.
it's his lack of like, his just lack of, I guess you can say, respect, but that's how little he thinks, for me, of what's going on right now, and it speaks to a bigger issue of a lack of leadership. It's a lack of leadership for me. You don't sit there and like Cristiano Ronaldo's post right after a really bad loss. You know, it wasn't a big loss in terms of looking at the scoreline. If you look at the scoreline, it's, oh, Man United barely shaved it, but it was probably a good match. When you actually watched it, that is a game that I feel like could be detrimental to the psyche of some of these young players if we don't have great leaders around, because
Mm.
it's disheartening. It really, really is. And you score 2 goals away from home at Old Trafford. You expect to get something out of the game, and we didn't. And you turn around and Aubameyang, like, just don't do it. Send Cristiano Ronaldo a freaking text and say, "Congratulations." Don't like it. Everybody's waiting and watching. And I feel like sometimes it's like they don't help themselves. And he definitely doesn't help himself all the time. So I get what you're saying there, but
Let me just say one quick thing here. I was on the train with gooners that go to every match, with gooners that are with their children, like spending 3, 4, £500 to be at that match. Yeah. We're talking about the fans. This guy's making 350 grand. We're talking about people spending a large part of their salary to go support the team they love. And to me, that is a total disrespect. And I saw in the chat someone said it's an accident, whatever. I don't give a whether it's an accident or not, because you're disrespecting the fans. People love the club. Like, you can go to another club. You can, City might come for you, whoever might come for you, Barcelona, yeah, right. But whoever might come for you, and you're making your big money. But us here, we're here for life. We love the club. And when you see your captain doing that, like, what times am I living in the end times? Like, what's going on? Like, your captain, Arsenal captain, liking it immediately after the match that you got banged and you're on 4 goals. Come on.
I think he doesn't have any, like, I don't know, I'm missing the word right now, but it's like self-awareness. Like, he doesn't have any awareness. Like, this is cool because I'm a Aubameyang, and this kind of, to me, just, it goes back to the fact that this is somebody who is not a leader. Like, he's not, for me. So, and Matt G says, I get the optics don't look good. However, if we want to talk about respect, have fans been respectful to Aubameyang on social media? And see, here's the thing, though. It's just because he is treated poorly by a section of the fan base doesn't mean that it's okay for him to like Cristiano Ronaldo's post after we just lost a game.
Two
You know,
rights don't make two
the
wrongs
two
don't make
things
a right.
they're definitely separate. And
Two
so it
wrongs don't
depends
make a
on,
right.
it's definitely not something that I'm going to sit around and stew over, for me personally, because I've known this. I felt like Aubameyang is the type of kind of like selfish person in general, like, where it's about Aubameyang. That's what I mean. Like, I've never looked at him and thought he's a captain. So when he does these things, I'm like, that is something that I could see Aubameyang doing.
Totally.
But it's just not a good look. And so sometimes you just have to think of how it's going to look and not think about yourself. In a selfish moment, you're thinking, cool, a striker getting 800th goal, cool. But like, an Arsenal captain should be thinking, how does this look to the young players
He
around, to
needs
the
to take
fans,
that
to the
armband
this?
off. He needs to
And
take that armband off. Sorry, Mikel, you need to sort out your captain situation, because this is not it. Like, this is not it. This is not it. I'm sorry. Like, he's not captain material. Like, for me, I'm personally done. I know there are other gooners who still want to give him a chance. A lot of my boys, they want to give him a chance, and they think, I'm overreacting, but he needs to take that captain armband off, because it's getting disrespectful now. I'm sorry. Like, wasn't it the other time? Was it the Tottenham game at home that he was late, or he was clowning around? He's the captain. He's supposed to be there first. He's supposed to be finding out where everybody is. He's
so I
getting there
think
late.
this is the most important part that Matt G makes a good point, and this is how I've always felt. Aubameyang isn't an Arsenal fan. We need to remember that he doesn't have a connection to this club, and he doesn't get the rivalry between us and Man United. That's why he did it. He didn't think, and that is why you can't give the captaincy to anybody. You can't give the captaincy to somebody that you're trying to keep around. As much as people try to act like the captaincy doesn't mean anything, it does to the 3 historical clubs. It does. It means something to Liverpool, it means something to United, and it means something to Arsenal. Why? Because we've had iconic captains that have drug us up from anywhere. It may not mean anything to Leicester. It may not, but it means something to us. And that's why sometimes you can't give everybody the armband, and it makes it like this unnecessary narrative where it always goes back to, is Aubameyang leading by example? He's never led by example. He's always been the guy that thought about, how many goals am I getting? As long as I'm getting a lot of goals, I don't care. We're putting
mm,
this weird thing on him like he's supposed to be a leader, and he's just not. And I feel like we're doing the same thing with Thomas Partey, but let's go back a little bit. So going back
mm.
to the beginning of the game, the first 5 minutes, I thought we had a couple of decent chances where we did this against Leicester and we did this against United, where we tried to capitalize on their shaky start and we
Yeah,
didn't.
definitely.
They had, and Sancho passed it straight to like Aubameyang or something like that. He had a
Yeah.
shot. We had a corner or whatever, and it
We
bounced right
had
into
three
their
corners.
box.
Yeah,
And
we had three
we,
corners in the first minute and a half.
yeah,
That's unheard of at Old Trafford, you know.
yeah.
So
And so I think, yeah, you may be able to let it go a little bit, but I still think we need to be a little bit more deadly in those first couple of minutes and kind of put them really on the back foot.
mm,
But we just don't have people that can do that, but you can kind of let that go. The game kind of goes a little bit and it's kind of deadish. Nobody's really doing
mm,
anything great on either sides. And then we get the goal, the ESR goal in that 12th minute, you know.
mm,
And I think the big talking point there is just, I'm glad that we put the ball in the back of the net so that they could look at it from a VAR perspective. But De Gea, how pathetic was that? I mean, he just literally went down thinking that that was an Arsenal player that had fouled him and took himself out of the game. And it was such a pathetic move on his part. And I'm glad that we got the goal because we deserved it. When you saw that goal go in,
yeah,
what did you think? Like, because the first thing I thought
yeah.
was De Gea is such a punk for that. But I also looked at Martin Atkinson like, you joke. How badly are you trying to let Man United win this game? I mean, what did you think about the first ESR goal?
Yeah, no, I think you know what? I would have been more in that camp. It not for 5 minutes just before we started when I hit the chair that I'm sitting on hit my big toe and it was excruciating pain. Like literally it's still hurting now. I don't want any, sub stories or sympathy, but I'm just saying, like, from having that happen to me right now, if he had anything similar to that from Fred, I understand why he went down the way he went down. Having experienced that right now, if I hadn't experienced it, I'll probably be like you. He's a bit of a wuss for going down so easily. So anyway, ultimately, he's gone down in pain. I don't think he's thinking who's done it. I just think he's gone down in pain. So he's gone down. And obviously, just the way the runner play, ESR had the front of mind to basically just slot it home, like, nice and simple. Atkinson, the less said the better. All the refs.
He looked at that guy down and said, "Tweet, oh, it was a foul." It's like, you didn't even see it. And he
Um, t-
also like, even with the Fred penalty, I think he's doing this thing where he's not refereeing the game because he knows VAR will get involved. Like, I feel like
yeah,
he's doing something weird there, but
yeah,
he was pathetic for that. I was like, you didn't even see it. It was like, it was a freak of nature goal. And people will say it's lucky, but in the end of the day, if ESR doesn't kick it in the back of the net, we don't get anything from that if we just stop,
totally, totally.
So
Big ups
I
to
was
him.
happy.
Big ups to him for still being on job. Big ups
Yeah,
to him for still being on job.
there's nothing wrong with getting a lucky goal here and there. It just sucks
Mm,
that we didn't get it and then win the game. But
totally.
I was shocked at that moment that we were ahead in this game, and I was like, okay, we're 1-0 up. What are we gonna do? Against Palace and against Palace, Leicester, and now
Mm,
United, we've went up and we
mm,
haven't been able to sustain pressure. And it's becoming something where that next 20 minutes, we just completely sat back. We couldn't find our outlets. Nobody could keep onto the ball. Our passing was atrocious. There was no connection between the back line, the midfield, and the strikers. And it was like this nightmare that we can't get out of. Now, this isn't new from this season either. Last season, we were like that as well, where I always felt like we liked chasing the game
mm,
more than when
mm,
we had the responsibility to be the ones ahead. And when we got ahead, we just were like, okay, we got our goal. Let's just, sit here and just hope, and I don't know. I think this is my first one big thing, but I do think there's a connection between the mentality of a team and the manager. And I think we would be kidding ourselves to think that these players are just shutting off and there's no connection to Arteta whatsoever. Do I believe that Arteta is telling them to sit back? No. But do I think that he instills the level of confidence that's necessary, that a manager should be transmitting that into his team? And I've felt like since he's come in, although he's given us some stability and some structure, we play quite cowardly and we don't really take the game to many teams, and we tend to let other people dictate, and then we react. We react to everything. And so I don't know if Arteta's sitting there saying, okay, we've scored, now sit back. But I definitely think there's a connection between him and the players sitting back. And that's an issue because it's not changing. It changed kind of after the Palace game. I think part of it was because we were playing poor teams as well, and we wanted to make a point. But the next big game that came around where we went ahead, we did the exact same thing. And I don't like Arsenal teams looking like cowardly. Like, Arsenal is not a cowardly team, but we've been like this for a long time, and I can't help but feel like it's being transmitted from the manager. I don't know. When you look at Arteta, I'm like, this may be a little bit harsh, but he strikes me as somebody that doesn't transmit confidence or cockiness or anything. And I don't know if he's leading that team correctly. But I'm not behind the scenes, so I can't say, well, on this moment he did this and on this moment he did that. But from your perspective, seeing that this is a constant thing, where, and there's the players have to take some responsibility as well, because our pivot attached themselves to the center backs as soon as we scored, so they were nowhere to be found.
I was just gonna say, literally, you hit the nail on the head. To be honest, I would slightly disagree in that even after the goal went in, I think from watching it here, the stats popped up, and it was still like 43% in Man United's, final thirds. So we were still putting on pressure. But what I would certainly say is our midfield pivot wasn't good enough. As far as McFred, and we can all laugh at McFred, and we've watched them in other games and they've looked a little bit like, disjointed and just not really on job. As far as I'm concerned, and any other people can disagree, but I was impressed. I was especially impressed with McTominay and Fred. I think those two, they probably had the best central midfield game compared to our two, Partey and El Neni, personally. So for me, I think it starts there. I think it looks at our you have to look at our midfield and say they weren't really progressing the ball and really making us as dangerous as possible, in my opinion.
Well, because I think it's a little bit of both. So there's some really good comments coming through. And like Yo-Yo is saying, the mentality confidence may be linked to players' inability to retain possession. This is primarily a skill set issue, although I don't rate Arteta.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point from Yo-Yo. That is a fair point.
But I mean, I guess because we can say like, okay, it's a skill set issue. Are we saying that we don't think Thomas Partey, Odegaard, and ESR have the ability to keep the ball?
I personally, I didn't think ESR was as bad, if we're trying to mention him. But for me, Partey, again, it's a consistent thing now where he's really, really, looking dodgy. I mean, I have to give him his flowers. He did do the pre-assist for the second goal, and that was good. But there were several times where he lost possession. He was just, he always.
When we recruited these players and they were coming to Arsenal Football Club, not a single analyst, not a single expert, not a single Atletico fan, if you ask them, would say that Thomas Partey is bad on the ball and cannot keep possession. Not a single person said Odegaard can't keep the ball. So is it just when they come to Arsenal, all of a sudden they're technically flawed? Is it, the pace of the Premier League that's keeping them from being able to react quick enough?
I think it's that.
Or is it the fact that sometimes I just feel like the midfield is so afraid to make a mistake, and they tend to shy away. And maybe it is because they keep losing possession and they don't feel confident. But the reality is, for me, we don't score goals, or we're not dangerous if we don't play through the center of the pitch. And the entire game, it felt like we were asking, especially when we got pinned back, we were kicking the ball to ESR and Tavares and saying, run down the pitch for us and just get us up the pitch. And sometimes that works when you're under pressure. But had Odegaard been closer, because he was so far on the right-hand side, away from them, he couldn't collect the ball. And Thomas was so far back that what was he going to do? Why is it that they don't show and support the outlet so that we can keep possession? You can't keep possession if there's nobody next to you. And it wasn't until the second half, after we got scored on again, that Thomas Partey started to show for the ball. He started showing for the ball to the center backs. He started connecting with Odegaard between the lines. Why did it take so long? They can do it. I really push back on the idea that they're technically flawed. I think it's a mentality issue. And I don't know where it's stemming from, because nobody said these players were technically flawed before they came to Arsenal.
No, nobody did. But then we're talking about two players that have looked good. They played the bulk of their football in La Liga. And I think there is a lot to be said about the Premier League. And I think you're seeing I see doubling, No, I mean, it is depressing. It is depressing, mate. But it is what it is. And personally, I think, the intensity, the physicality of the Premier League is maybe wearing these guys down. And I don't think they're lost causes, but certainly, I mean, as far as Partey is concerned, and I've said this to you, I've said it online, I think it's almost like a climate issue for that guy. And what I mean by that is, like, he's only ever really played in like climates that don't get really, really like below 15C. Now, some people might say, oh, there's parts of Spain that get really cold. But ultimately, I just feel like him being in the UK, he's struggling. I think he's really struggling on that front.
That doesn't add up, because last season, nobody said that Thomas Partey or Odegaard were bad on the ball. This is recent. This is very, very recent.
I hear you.
Just hold on, really. I really think we're starting to try to say these players are bad players. And this is what we always do. When things aren't working out, we start looking at the players and saying that they're not good.
Well, they're playing like they're not good, though, Jess. Come on,
no,
they're playing like they're not good.
Hold on. Just let me land really quick. Okay. Again, I didn't hear a single freaking person last season say Odegaard and Thomas Partey cannot keep possession before they even came to Arsenal. So they're not bad players. And they didn't have an issue with the Premier League last season. Now, Thomas Partey did get injuries, but when he was on the pitch, he wasn't poor, except for the one Spurs match that he played where Arteta pushed him back on the pitch. So I'm very reluctant to say that these are just bad players and it was bad recruitment and all of that, because we just keep doing that. Whenever things aren't working out, we start to say, well, the recruitment was bad. And I don't think it necessarily is that. I think there's a mentality issue with the midfield when we're in pressurized parts of the game where we're ahead. And I think it's something to do with that more than all these players are bad and we just don't recruit and all this kind of stuff. Because I even think with Aubameyang, he's not actually a bad player. He just has a poor mentality. Like, that's what I think. It's the mentality of the entire team is not good enough.
But then,
and I think it stems from the manager.
Isn't a large part of it mental as well? I have to disagree slightly, because yes, you could say he's not a bad player in terms of his ability to physically be a player, but a large part of being an excellent player is you upstairs as well, and if you're not on it upstairs, then you are a bad player as well. If you're weak, I mean, this is my issue with Pepe. I think technically Pepe is actually not that bad a player. He's a decent player, but mentally upstairs, I think that just brings him down like 3 or
Yeah,
4 levels. So I think
but you
both
can't
go
tell
hand
me
in
that
hand.
somebody that's won the Champions League with first of all, you don't play in Simeone's team if you have a weak mentality. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, there's something from when players come from somewhere else and come to Arsenal, where even with Willian, we know Willian's not a bad player, but we all deemed him as a really terrible player once he got to Arsenal. It's a systemic issue within the club. We do this to every single player that does bad. Do you think that Arsenal have a good mentality and these players are just bad recruits and we didn't look at their mental? I'm sorry, you don't play for Simeone if you have a bad mentality. You don't
Maybe it's
play away at
fair.
Anfield. And
Maybe it's fair. What I mean by that is when you're in a certain environment, like Partey was at Atletico and William was at Chelsea, there's an element of fear. It's almost like when you know you're good at your job, but if your manager and the environment is one where it's kind of meh, like it's not really striving for excellent and being elite, then naturally you're gonna. I always believe in any kind of corporate environment, no matter who you are, and this is me as well, because I work in sales and I've been in environments where I've come from really hardcore environments, and that's made me be the very best I can be. And I've gone into other environments where it's a little bit like laid back and whatever. And I've tried to still be the same guy, but after a while, you just kind of merge into your environment. And I think it's the same or similar maybe with Arsenal, that these guys have come from environments, high expectation, high intensity. Everyone around you wants to be the very best they can be. And that naturally, if you're like that, yeah, you're all on that. But then when you go into another environment where the expectations are a little bit, and we've heard many former players come out with it about Arsenal in terms of when they come to Arsenal, the expectations are just not that. And Arteta is trying his best, but it has to be a club-wide thing. That's what I think the problem is. It can't just be Arteta trying to be, oh, this is Arsenal, this is Arsenal, this has
but
to be, it has to be from top to bottom.
he's kind of in charge of what goes on the pitch, is he not? I mean,
Yes,
but he's the manager. Like, the thing is that they've given him this huge role, and every time that things are going well, he is the responsible for the culture shift at the club. He's doing all of the steps to make sure that this team is better in the future. So when we're not doing well and the mentality is still shit when we play in big games, that's also on him. Can't give him
I,
praise when things are going well, and then when things are, he is very much in charge of transfers,
yeah.
bringing in players, getting the tactics together, motivating this team. That is a part of his job. And so I'm looking at it and I'm like, I mean, okay, so it's a Man City fan basically saying this. Thank you for joining us. I rarely see Man City fans really, but so some of your players were poor, but you stood off of United. You should have gone at them, and they were there for the beating.
I
We all
agree.
know that we stood off of them, and we played scared, almost as if we were shocked that we got that goal, and we were prepared to just kind of sit in and try to keep them from attacking us. It was really weird. And there was another comment here about it's the third man. So Co Habo Berlin, thank you for your comment, says it's about that third man in midfield, why Odegaard and Party aren't functioning well at the moment. And when you look at it, there was also an earlier comment about El Neni was a signal to United and the rest of the team that we were not going to come at them and we were going the safe route. Arteta said in his presser that he chose El Neni because he did well last season, but El Neni hasn't played at all this season, really, and he's opted for Sambi almost every single game, even when he hasn't played well. And we've been going with Thomas and Sambi for the last couple of weeks. Do you think that choosing El Neni was an acceptance of we're just going to sit in tight? Because El Neni is not a progressive midfielder. He is a sit in and just try to keep them from scoring on us type of guy.
Don't
And
embarrass
is
ourselves. Yeah.
and is his limitations may be a reason why you see reluctancy from Thomas Partey. I'm not relieving Thomas from his bad touches. That is definitely on him. But his lack of bravery may come from him not trusting El Neni. It may be something there. And because he's not taking risks, he's also not getting the ball to Odegaard. When we played well against West Ham, which is one of the best games that Thomas Partey and Odegaard played together, their connection was undeniable. Thomas would get it, turn quick, bam, into Odegaard's feet. If Odegaard does not get the ball, he can't influence the game. Do you think that that third midfielder is an issue of why we can't get the most out of Odegaard and Thomas Partey? And do you believe that El Neni sent a signal to the team that we're just going to sit in and we're not going to go for it? Because Sambi is more of a go for it, isn't he?
Yeah. No, on both of those points, I totally agree. Because, okay, let's take a step back and look at it from Arteta's perspective. We've seen enough of Arteta now to know he's a risk-adverse type of character, you know, and he does not want to go to Manchester again and get his ass handed to him. He's facing a team with arguably the best player in the world in it, still, who won the game, 2 goals, number one. You've got one of the most exciting young players. I know some people say Sancho is not on job at the moment. He's poor form, but he's still a top player. Likewise with Rashford, he had a crap game, still a top player. And then you have Bruno Fernandes, who's leading the league in, I think, chance creations at the moment, ahead of I can't remember who the other 2 were, but I saw the stat. So he's leading in terms of chance creations. Sorry, in 2021 this year. So if I'm Arteta, I understand why there was reticence. And personally, we were talking, last week, the run up to this game, we said, if you could give us a 1-1 or 2-2, correct me if I'm wrong or if I'm lying, Jess, we would take that. And we were close to getting that. We were close to getting that, weren't we? If not for the mistake from Odegaard, we would have probably, I thought the game was going to be 2-2 personally. So
They didn't have anything in them. Had we not given them those goals, they would they earned one of them goals. Both of the other ones we freaking gave to them. It was actually just, I think that's what's frustrating is like,
that was
had we
Ben White,
played,
wasn't it? When
yeah, it
he
was,
mispassed, and he didn't, that was Ben White for the
that
Ronaldo
was,
goal,
yeah. I just kind of thought like, I mean, they you do deserve the goals that you get, but I just feel like for us to be as conservative as we were, to go away from there giving up 3 goals makes
yeah,
no sense. It's
yeah,
like, how are we giving up so many goals when we don't actually commit a lot of men forward? We don't. Thomas Partey and El Neni sit right in front of the center backs to protect that back line, and we suffer going forward for it. But we still gave up 3 goals. That's a
yeah.
madness to me. But
Yeah, just to make one correction, it wasn't the Ronaldo goal.
it was
Basically,
Bruno's goal.
yeah, it was Bruno when Fred kind of did that nice little pass backwards and he just slotted it in. And yeah, I thought Ben White was having a good game, but that goal and also Ronaldo's goal,
That was his
that
one
was
mistake, I
who.
thought.
Yeah, no, but then who do you blame for the Ronaldo goal when he was just in front of Ronaldo ball watching, and then you had Partey just behind Ronaldo? Like, which one of
Oh,
those 2 would you
I
blame?
blame that goal on Tavares and ESR. I
What?
thought,
So you mean right all the way from the start of the build up? Yeah.
yeah, because had Tavares brought the ball down and not thought, because basically we needed to keep our foot on the, we needed to get our foot on the ball. And so it stemmed from Tavares wanting to go forward and ESR not being like on it. And I thought, this is when you probably, and I mean, you're a big Kieran Tierney person. That's probably when you're looking at Tavares and saying, does Kieran Tierney not bring this down and give us some more possession? Tavares
Totally.
is his almost naivety to always want to go forward. We like it, and his anticipation was good. But ultimately, when the team needs to just get their foot on the ball and somebody tries to do something and then you guys are out of position, I mean, that left side was exposed at that point. And, I get that they probably should have defended better. But sometimes we know that this defense is really good because we've seen them day in and day out play well and not give up goals. But have you noticed that the games where we lack the ability to put our foot on the ball, we give away more goals? We give away a lot of them. That is coming from those players not making the right decisions, not putting their foot on the ball, not recognizing the time to recirculate and not go forward, have better touches, connect with your teammates. So I'm reluctant to really go in on the defenders because we know that they're good, but why do they give up so many goals against better teams? Because our midfield doesn't keep the ball. The
No,
players
I
in
hear
front of them
you.
do not keep the ball.
I hear
So when
you.
I
I hear
look at it,
you.
it
I
stemmed
hear
from
you.
that, and I think that that was the biggest mistake in that move. Tons of people made mistakes in that move, but when I look at it, it's because Tavares was too gun ho and ESR was playing
But
poorly.
no one, Ben White or Party, no one made a challenge of Ronaldo when the ball got to him, and they were both in his proximity. So Ben White looked
Okay.
like he was ball watching, and Partey just I don't know what
Yeah.
Partey was like. Yeah, Partey.
But here's the thing. It's we're always going to look at the defense and say that they made the mistake. But when you leave them exposed and Man United was just running in on you, you win the ball, and then Tavares gets it, and then you're back on the back foot. I get what you're trying to say, but we'll never look at the midfield or the other players if we always just look at the defenders. They didn't defend well for that one move. But like, let's be real. Those players were not keeping onto the ball.
No,
They weren't.
they weren't. But I don't mean to
I'm saying
keep
I'm
going.
saying no, no, no. I'm saying the
We're talking
biggest
about
issue.
arguably one of the best players in the world. That was not. They weren't tight on him as well. Yeah, we're talking about arguably one of the
Okay.
best players in the world. So for me, that is a real big crime that I can't just let go. Like you don't
But
just let
you
Ronaldo
okay,
just.
well, I'm diagnosing the problem and you're focusing on the result. Like I guess that's more what it is cuz honestly, you keep the ball there and you circulate it, that doesn't happen. And a lot of the goals that we've given up
Mm,
in these games where we give up so many goals is usually because somebody didn't make the right decision in possession. You
yeah.
know,
No, I
but
agree with
I'm
you.
not
I
going to
agree
sit
with you.
around and look at Gabrielle and Ben White, who, when we have possession, like, and we're playing well, like, it makes it to me, it's them not keeping possession. But yeah, they didn't defend well for that. But I can't look past Tavares and ESR, for that, to be honest. But there's about 83 of you guys watching. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. Yo, I hear what you're saying, but we saw Party and El Neni run through United last season, but they were also braver last season. Last season, we didn't play the way that we played this time, Like Thomas Party was getting on the ball a lot. That was the game that people felt like Thomas Party had arrived at Arsenal, and El Neni was doing so much work to sweep up behind. This game, they both stayed really close to the back line. Neither of them were really showing for the ball. They slept through large periods of the game. So although it was the same two players, we didn't get the same result because they didn't have the same impetus. So let's move a little bit. Let's move forward. We gave up after, we sat back for about 20 minutes. We gave up the goal right before half, which again
Mm.
just shows our inability to. I think this is where leadership really comes in: inability to close out halves. And if you get into if you get into the half at 1-0, you still may give up that first goal, but it just it almost felt like they were deflated, and then they come out for the second half and they're asleep and give up another goal and are
Mm,
still sitting back. And it
mm.
took us until the second goal to start actually playing again. Is that a lack of leadership on the pitch and also on the sideline? Where do you think that lies more? Do you think when we come out of halftime after we've given up the goal and we're still 1-1 and are still playing like we're just going to sit back and let them do stuff? Is that Arteta? Do we need more leadership out there on the pitch? What's going on here? Because for a team that was 1-1, you would have thought that we had been slapped 3-0, and they came out in the second half like, we're just going to let the slapping continue. What do you think happened at the beginning of that second half?
I think, to be honest, Jess, I don't think it's been anything much different than what we've seen all season. Dare I say, you know, all of last season, really. We're not the team. You can count how many times we really impose ourselves on teams in the way I think you're maybe framing the discussion about a little bit. So to me, it's not a surprise how we played. It really isn't a surprise how we play. We've been playing like that forever. So, we come out, we're not going to take it to them if it's 1-1. It's just not
Mhm.
really, and we can speculate about the reasons, but I can't give you the reasons. We just don't play like that. We just don't play like that, you know. Um, yeah, that's just my take on it, really. You know,
Yeah. Leonide says ball possession equals control of the game. And we tend to give the other team all the possession, all of
totally,
the territory,
totally,
and just
totally.
say, we're just going to sit back. And here's my question to you, though, is if we're going to be this team that's just going to sit back, because I have a suspicion why our possession stats have went down so much. I think it's a combination of things. One of them, I know people are not going to want to hear. Thomas Partey has been so much worse, and our possession has been a lot worse since Granit Xhaka has not been in this side. But I think it's also just like we just, I don't know. It's like if we're going to be this team that just gives up territory and possession, and they're just going to take advantage of the opportunities as they come, and we're not going to take it to the other teams, why play a back four? Why not just play a back three and just actually bunker it in? Because this in between of we're a possession based team and we want to control games, but yet and still we still allow the other team, because there's another aspect of possession, which is winning possession and keeping it, and we don't
Mm,
do that part. When we get
mm,
possession, it's like we want to be a possession team without winning it or
mm,
actually like keeping it. It's really
mm.
weird. But do you think that we're a little bit naive and sometimes we could go into these games with a different formation and play with wing backs and keep it tight if we're not going to actually go at teams? Because what's the point of playing this open style if we're still going to give up 3 goals? You know what I mean? Do you see
No,
us as still
totally.
like a 3-4-3 team? I mean, I know people, we've been playing a back four, but like we're still giving up goals, but we're not really doing anything. It's weird.
No, no, totally. And I think ultimately, again, sorry to sound like a broken record, I don't think Arteta went there hoping to win the game. That was not his initial priority, like his first priority. His first priority, in my view, was to draw the game. And if we were to nick it, then that's great. Just like how they nicked it, I think he would have loved that to have been us, to just nick it, the final stages, 3-2, 2-1, what have you. So because of that, I'm not surprised how we played the way we play. I can't take umbrage. I can't have an issue with how we played because I think he actually had a plan. And it was, other people can argue with me, but in my view, it was going to plan, if not for the penalty. So, yeah, that's my view on it, really. I don't
But
think
if
we
you're
should
gonna play
overthink
for
it.
a draw, if you're
Yeah.
gonna play for a draw, that is not the I that is play for a draw light. That's what I saw. Play
But
for
that's
a draw
Arteta, though. That's
light. Like
Arteta.
that's
That is
not
Arteta, though.
what was the game plan? Like, when people go to big places and they play for a draw,
Yeah.
they play with a 3-5-2 or a 3-4-3. It's really freaking
Yeah.
obvious that you're going
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
draw.
Yeah.
You're gonna plug up the passing
Yeah.
lanes. You're going to
Yeah.
have a game plan to play on the counterattack. And today looked no different than the way that we've played, except for El Neni. That was it. His
Yeah.
idea of playing for a draw or being, you know, trying to, get out there with some points was to add El Neni. Is that how deep your tactics really are? That's not good enough because
Whoa,
what was
whoa, whoa. I mean, I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think
I
you've
mean,
hit the nail on the head.
like, that doesn't make any sense to me because it didn't look like we went out to really try to win the game because everybody was just so conservative. Like, you could just tell. Adding El Neni does not say to me that we're trying to keep it tight and we're going to try to hurt them on the counter because that's how you have to do it. And then on top of that, then where are your outlets? If you're
Yeah,
going to
no,
play on the counter, then why are you not going to play Lacazette? If you're going to play on the counter, you have to play Lacazette.
yeah, I hear you. I hear you. But for me, El Neni, he protects the ball. And I think he did protect the ball, I think he really did protect the ball. Now, if you had Sambi there, there's much more of a risk of losing the ball much more in dangerous areas and having problems. So for me, again, I still think, I think I look at that game, having watched it back again quite recently, and I don't want to say we played well, but we played as well as United played ultimately. They were stronger. in midfield, but it wasn't so strong because it's McFred that it wasn't like City where, where it just looks like you're getting owned or it wasn't that kind of party, but they played in a way whereby I think it was evenly matched. And I thought it was going to be 2-2, and I thought I would have been happy with the 2-2, but ultimately it wasn't meant to be. So for me, I don't think the tactics was. I can't sit here and want to scrutinize the tactics and say Mikel got it totally wrong, because I understand what he was trying to do. He's trying to leave there with a point. He nearly did, but for a slight error on Odegaard. But you can't even be too mad at Odegaard because he got the equalizer as well. So
Well, this just goes back to, like, I see some people in the comments saying he didn't play for a draw, he played to win, but we were just bad on the ball.
I don't
Why
think he
are we
played to
bad
win. I
on the
don't think.
ball? But beyond that, why did these games come so, like, they come so often where we're not good on the ball in the midfield and up top? It happened against Burnley. It happened against Brighton. It happened against Palace. It happened against Liverpool. And now it's happening against Man United. Are we actually sitting here saying that we think that all of our players are just crap? Or is there something deeper there where whatever the game plan is not putting them in advantageous positions to be successful on the pitch? I'm trying to figure out, is it the chicken or the egg? Because I don't understand. All of a sudden, we're just really bad on the ball. But we all agree that these players are not bad on the ball. ESR is not bad on the ball.
Yeah, I mean,
Odegaard is not bad on the ball. Thomas
yeah.
Partey is not bad on the ball. So what is it? And if he wasn't playing for a draw and he was playing to win, what was the game plan that he put together to win that game? Because El Neni and Thomas Partey sitting back, what? What was that about to do?
I don't think, like I said, I think if he was playing to win, he would have played with Sambi. He would have played with Lacazette as well. So I don't think he was playing to win per se. And when I say playing for a draw, that's a kind of loaded statement. And people, when they hear playing for a draw, they think, okay, he just wants to sit back and he just wants to soak up pressure. I don't think that was the case. I just think with the choices he made in the team selection, he would have liked to have won the game, but he certainly would not have accepted anything less than a draw. Like that would have been his, like in in the list of priorities, it's like draw, win, definitely not lose, And so I don't think he went out saying, I want to win this game. So when I say playing for a draw, it's hard to explain it. I hope I'm making sense, but I just think
No. I know what I get what you're saying. And I think none of us really know what he was trying to do because the game plan was unclear. The game plan was unclear once you put El Neni in there. Thomas Partey's not going forward. Is it because Thomas Partey is scared, or is it because he's being told to do that? Arteta's apparently yelling on the sideline for them to go to move forward. They're not doing it. So there's a lot of things that are competing up against each other, which makes it not a clear picture to Arsenal fans what's going on. And ultimately, the biggest question that I feel like we're asking, is it Arteta or the players? What is it and how do we solve it?
But isn't Partey supposed to be a number 8 in that sort of setup with El Neni? He's supposed to be a number 8. Did he play like a number 8? He didn't play like a number 8 to me. Like what my boy that I watched the match with, he said to me, I'm starting to think that Thomas Partey is too good to be a 6 and not good enough to be an 8. And that blew me away because that's not what we bought him for seeing him at Atletico. But I'm starting to feel like that might make sense.
Well, it depends on what your definition of an 8 is. A lot of people say an 8 has to score goals and have to get assists, and that's what an 8 is. But sometimes it's just a box-to-box player. And I think that he has the ability to do that, but he didn't do that, so he's definitely not a 6, at all.
He wasn't an attacking threat, though. He took that really dodgy free kick, and that was all I can remember.
That's how you go back to the definition that you have of a number 8. Soumare plays like a number 8. Tuchemeni, whatever his name is, he's a number 8. Neither of them score goals. They're box-to-box players, but they don't sit in front of the defense. So it depends. If you want a more attacking 8, then when you're looking at Thomas, you'll always think, well, he's not an 8. But just like there's different strikers, there's different 8s. He wasn't good, and he didn't do a good job. but I think this is really recent. And if you go back to some of the games that we played last season, he was always the pass before the pass. He was fizzing those balls in between the lines, and it may not be creative genius. It's not Ramsey running into the box, making third man runs. Also, our pivot never runs into the box, and that's definitely coached. So if you feel like Thomas is not doing enough offensively, our pivot has never ran into the box. Not Ceballos, not Xhaka, not Torreira, not Guendouzi. Nobody that's ever played an Arteta pivot has ever touched the box. That's coached, but he wasn't good. But I still think we're misprofiling in Thomas, and because he doesn't give us goals, we're thinking that he can't play box to box, and I don't think that
I
that's
don't
really
even
it.
know if it's just goals. Like when I mean attacking, and maybe it's just my terminology, forgive me, but I just didn't really see him progressing the ball in the way I would have liked. And that's why I ended up saying McFred looked the dominant pairing in the midfield, because we all know what El Neni's job is. He's just to protect the back four.
Well, he
But
played poorly. That's pretty much the end of because
well,
he played bad.
then how can we
He
put it
played
on
poor.
Arteta? Then how can we put it on Arteta's strategy? This is the thing, because the discussion was about Arteta, how did he set up, whatever. But then
But
now
it's
you're saying,
probably a little bit of both, though. Like, that's the
well,
thing
now
is
you're
players
changing
don't
it
just.
though.
No, I'm not changing it. I'm not. You're saying I'm because you're black and white, and I tend to think things are kind of somewhere in the middle. You can't relieve Arteta of everything. You can't just say the players just continuously play bad every week that they have to play a difficult team. Something has to be coming from Arteta. And again, you're saying, well, he's not attacking enough for me. He's not attacking. When is our pivot, regardless of Thomas Partey being there or not, ever attacked?
I
When?
just mean in terms of being progressive. He didn't. He looked for a few passes, but it's almost like when he misplaced a couple of passes, that scared the shit out of him, and he just stopped making that same effort. He was too worried he was going to lose the ball again, and that's where I started to think. Basically, remember when we spoke before and I was having a go at Thomas Partey, you said to me, if he plays with the El Nini type, somebody he doesn't have to worry about babysitting, like with Sambi, he's got to worry about babysitting and
I
things
said a
going
Basuma
awry.
type. I did not say an El Neni type.
No, but
Be real
okay.
for 5 minutes. I never said if he plays with El Neni that he's gonna. I
What I
said
mean,
this
what
is
I mean
why
is
it
a number
makes it
six,
so
a number
frustrating.
six, a
El
number
Neni is
six,
not.
a number
Okay, you
six.
still have to hold El Neni's hand. I hear what you're saying. We've all kind of agreed that Thomas Partey did not play well, but that does not absolve Mikel Arteta of anything that happened yesterday. Cliff says predicted a 3-1 Man United. That being said, we had a chance. It was clear a change was needed at 50 minutes in. Mikel Arteta does nothing until 12 minutes left and brings on Eddie. And this is where Arteta becomes more of a focus. Yes, it's not his fault that they're not possessing the ball well, or technically they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. But after they scored that, actually at halftime, you probably could have made some substitutions. Then we give up that second goal, and I was screaming for subs because we just couldn't keep the ball. Aubameyang at that point hadn't been able to keep the ball at all. The midfield was still
Where was his
scared.
pressing? When he hasn't been scoring, he's been trying to press, and I didn't see any. I can't remember. Can you remember him pressing at all? I can't remember him pressing
No, but
yesterday.
Aubameyang does this to us every single time that we play a big team. You can just, or we go away from home or whatever. He has a little bit of the Ozils about him. He kind of has to be at he's a flat track bully type. Like that's really what he is. Like at home against lower level opposition, he can rack it up.
I
But
was
when
going to
we
say the Villa game that I saw him, the way he was pressing in that game, I didn't know he had it in him. Like everybody was like, he's not that sort of player. All he's about is his goal. That game, that's when I thought, wow, this
but
guy is trying his
but
best.
yeah, no, we all know Aubameyang. At this point, I just want it to be definitive throughout this fan base that Aubameyang is just he doesn't do enough, like period. And that may just be a profile thing, it may be an age thing. I don't know. He ain't doing enough, and we don't see the same Aubameyang game from game from game from game. He doesn't have
Totally.
that consistency. But at halftime, I thought that there should have been a substitution. I thought Lacazette and Sambi should have came in. I didn't care who Sambi came in for, of El Neni and Thomas Partey. I just wanted
Them
somebody
ones.
to,
Yeah,
yeah, I
I
just
hear
was
you.
like, just
I hear you.
somebody bring Sambi in.
Yeah, I hear
And
you.
then take out Aubameyang and put in Lacazette. We give up that first goal,
Yeah.
and I'm really wanting the subs then. But then all of a sudden, these decided to start playing. And it infuriated me that it took until we went down again and needed to chase the game to start playing. So 1-0 up, we don't want to play. 1-1, we don't want to play. But when we go behind, that's when we want to start playing. That is such a shitty mentality, and that is not Arsenal. That is just not it. When Thomas Partey, as soon as they scored that goal, Thomas Partey's between the lines, showing his feet to Gabriel and Ben White, receiving the ball, dinking it around. Ben White starts hitting diagonals to Tavares. He starts hitting the balls in between the lines to Aubameyang. Like, Odegaard starts touching the ball more. And then we score a beautiful, beautiful goal. And I cannot lie to you, as excited as I was about it, I just thought, why can't we play like that all the time? Why do we have to chase the game? What is that? What is that? And even after that, I still felt like substitutions needed to come a little bit sooner. But when we scored that second goal and we drew the game 2-2, were you not disappointed that we just didn't play like that the entire time? Because that was the first time that we actually took the game to them, and we had gone behind to do it.
I wasn't disappointed one bit, Jess. I wasn't disappointed one bit. Because again, like I said, I thought that was the strategy to go leave there with a point. Because I'm looking at that team and we can say, oh, Man United aren't the teams of the past, but it's still a strong team. And when we come, of all teams, especially a team they're probably thinking, well, they're not the greatest themselves. Like, we've had a good tough time. Ole's not here. Our new manager's in the stands. I would have, taken that 2-2. I would have taken it. So I'm talking about watching it a couple of hours ago. Looking back at it, I just looked at it and was thinking, we had a plan that we was going to plan, and that would have been 2-2, take the point, off we go, and I would have been happy with that. Some Arsenal fans might say, oh, what's that about? We should go there and get 3 points. But nah. At the end of the day, we're not that team yet. Let's ground ourselves in reality, what type of team we are. We're not the team to be expecting 3 points away at Old Trafford. We just should not be doing that. And you don't get top four by beating top four teams away from home. That's not how you get top four. You get top four by being cute and being smart.
I understand the result, but we weren't cute and smart. We weren't cute and smart.
We nearly
weren't.
We nearly got.
But no, you're saying that because we were close. Hold on. We weren't cute and smart. We weren't. We were in between two philosophies. We were in between wanting to be that team, possessing the ball, and then being somebody scared and sitting back. And ultimately,
we got an early goal. We got an equalizer. We should have then calmed things down.
We weren't cute and smart. In my
opinion, an early goal. We got an equalizer. Then we should have calmed things down. We would have left with a point.
Sorry, but anyways, we weren't cute and smart. But we draw the game. It's 2-2, and then I thought from that moment we were the better team. I did. I thought we were controlling things. We were in it.
That's
we
when
finally
you
started creating some things.
That's when you nick it.
Hold on. But we didn't nick it. We didn't get a third goal.
That's
we didn't get anything.
It, though. Yeah, but that's when you nick it.
I hear you, Io. I hear that's where you nick it. I've heard you. I get it. But that's when you nick it. But we shut up. You're so annoying. Okay, so literally, that's when you nick it. But we didn't. We didn't do it. And Arteta makes some substitutions. He brings in Bukayo. He brings in, he brought in Bukayo. He didn't really do much. But the one player that I thought in that span of time that was playing really, really well and was playing like I think Arsenal players should play away from home at Old Trafford was Martinelli. I thought in that time he was pressing. He was crazy. He was doing his thing. He was putting those boys under pressure. And this is why I say, I don't think Martinelli is so much better than some of our other players. I don't think he's so much better than Saka or so much better than ESR. I think his sheer want to get the ball. There was one time where Telles had control over it. Telles had complete control over it. And he takes the ball from him.
Talk the
ESR
talk.
and then just kind of, oh, you got it. You got it.
There's something about the guy, yeah. Like
Yeah.
we saw 1920 Martinelli before he got injured. Like he's just he has skill and he has desire. Yeah, that's the two things he has. Like Tellez was celebrating like when he managed to nullify. Do you see how do you see how happy he was? That's how Martinelli had him. That is how Martinelli had him. He was my man of the match personally.
No, yeah, I hear you. And I think that's something that Arsenal fans are afraid of. And I tend to be a little bit afraid of it as well, is that I don't want Arteta to neuter freaking Martinelli. He has a lot of players that are good, nice, fine, technical players, but sometimes you need that Alexis Sanchez in your ranks. You need a Suarez in your ranks. You need somebody
100.
that is a disruptor. And I think two players that always wanted to go for it, sometimes to the detriment, but even Tavares has a little bit of that disruptive nature to him. We need some more of those players down the spine of our team. Right now, we need a disruptor in the number 9 position. We need another disruptor in our midfield. If we had just one player in the midfield that acted like Martinelli, we'd win more games. We'd win more games. Like we just would.
Totally agree.
And we don't have enough of that personality. And I don't want a bunch of nice boys out there. They're nice enough, but we need some SOBs out there. We need some guys that are just like, I'm actually not going to stop, and Martinelli was unlucky not to get a goal. I know people, I watch back and I'm like, oh, he should have passed the ball to ESR, but no, he shouldn't have. He should have taken the shot. I wouldn't have passed it to ESR.
He's capable. He's capable. No, he's capable, definitely. He was just unlucky. But he put in work down that right flank. He put in work. So, like, if somebody wants to look me in the eye, like straight in the eye, and say Pepe would have done better, I'm sorry, man. You need to go get your eyes tested, because as far as I'm concerned, he was my man of the match. He was my man of the match.
Yeah. And so, yeah, and I'm not saying he's as good as Alexis Sanchez. You guys don't be freaking literal. What I'm saying is, like, I hate when you're like, you compare somebody to somebody and it's like, he's not. I get it, but I don't know what his ceiling is. I don't want to project on him like that. But what I will say is that he breaks up the monotonous of having a bunch of nice boys out there. And we don't need a bunch of nice players all the time. Yo-Yo saying, have you noticed that since Arteta's came in, fans constantly fight over wanting to see more of the same number of players? Do people not see any similarity between them? I think what you're trying to say is that Arteta doesn't like the unstructured players, or he doesn't tend to go towards them or use them as much because they're probably more unpredictable. And I tend to agree with you that we have a lot of really nice, but sometimes you need some balance there, and Martinelli definitely adds that. So yeah, and I know that was like a harsh, like, say don't neuter him, but basically what I'm saying is don't take his balls away. Don't make him into this player that needs to be like, because it was perfect. But and no, strikers don't pass to other people in the box. They just don't. And I know that he should have passed it to ESR, but he wouldn't have. But he was the main guy that was doing stuff. But
I just remember he's just scored in a previous game. So why is he in his mind? Why is he gonna pass? He's just not. This is what we love about him. He has self-belief. He has desire. He's not going to pass. He's just not. In that kind of position, in my opinion. So
I mean, it's easy to say he should have passed that ball, but away from home at Old Trafford, he's a striker at heart. He's gonna take that shot, and
totally.
There's no guarantee that ESR scores that either. So I don't know. I just feel a little bit like Martinelli did what I would expect him to do, and that's why we love him. But game keeps going. We're in it, but we can't seem to get that third goal. And then somehow Fred gets loose and gets into the box, and Odegaard trudges back there and puts in a horrible tackle and gives away the penalty. I've seen Odegaard do this quite a bit of times. Like I've seen him get away with some of these real like these poor tackles, like
Mm. He
and he's
nearly
just
got
not.
away with it if not for VAR, wasn't it? Like Atkinson
Yeah,
was up
he would
for it.
have. That guy was like, I'm not refereeing this game, but I just I look at it and I'm like, it's just such a shame because I think Odegaard had a good second half and helped us
Mm,
create the little bit of chances that we had, only to kind of nullify it a little bit just because of that penalty. But does it speak to a bigger issue of Arsenal in crunch situations not being able to one see out games, but cut out these individual errors? We have a lot of individual errors in us that I thought that we had kind of gotten away from. But
mm.
what do you think? Do you think that what do you think those individual errors are coming from? And is it just something that we can just say Odegaard just made a mistake, or is it a systemic thing? Because we talk about these individual errors and then we forget about them for a little bit, but
Mm.
they kind of come back and bite us in the ass quickly, So what do you think?
Well, we haven't had too many of late. So for me, I'm willing to give Odegaard the benefit of the doubt, especially as he got on the score sheet. He scored the equalizer. So as gutted as I am, because it's a broken record, 2-2, that was me. I was happy all day long for that. Shit happens. Shit happens. It was an unfortunate tackle, but when you really think about it, it was a penalty. I'm not saying it wasn't, but it wasn't the most egregious tackle. There's every possibility he could have got the ball first and not really got contact with him. There's every possibility. It just wasn't meant to be. So I'm less kind of beating myself about it and trying to maybe cast aspersions or, okay, this is what we do. We always fumble it and whatnot. I just not got that energy for this particular instance, personally.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is kind of Tony makes an interesting point that this is a dead on pen, and Captain of Norway Odegaard needs to stay calm and should have done better. If F and Fred beats us from the ball, fine, then you can't give that pen away. And I kind of fall a little bit there, but I also think that Odegaard is a kind of experienced player, but kind of not at the same time. He's still only 22 years old. I know he's played
Mm,
a lot of senior matches at a very kind of like a lower level of intense. And he's one of those types of players that people, because he had so much hype around him that they're expecting him to be something that he's not. He's not a
mm,
defender. He made a mistake. It cost us the game. But I
mm,
think what cost us the game more was the way that we played from minute one. I think that
mm,
cost us the game more than anything. I think this is something that you can look at and say, had it not been for this, we would have done it. And that's it's technically true. But I
mm,
feel like if we defend better, if we're more defensively sound, we don't give up the first two goals. If
mm,
we're more brave, we score a couple more goals. So it came down to the Odegaard penalty, which was a dead on penalty, and he definitely needs to do better there. But
mm,
he's also one of the reasons why we got back into the game. So I don't want to be too harsh on him, but the individual errors, they happen, but it feels like the egregious ones really happen with us quite often, and that's really a shame. But if that had been Granit Xhaka, people would be going in even harder. This is
Well, if
Odegaard's
if
like
if Granit
first.
Xhaka had scored the equalizer, I'm not sure they would have. I think, yeah, I'm not sure they would have. If he hadn't done anything really except protect the ball and then done that, obviously, yeah, we would have crucified him, unfortunately. But yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much the game, and then it leaves us with so many more questions about where we really are. I mean, a point
Mm,
off of fourth, but we've really let some of the other teams come in, and they're
mm,
right
mm,
behind us. Like Man United is
mm,
2 points behind us. Spurs is a point behind us with a game in hand. So
mm,
that top four race is looking a lot more difficult than
mm,
it looked like maybe just a week or so ago, but we're still in it. But was this a wake-up call for you or more of just like a hard day at the office? I tend to think that we need to be introspective sometimes and look and see it like and actually where we are on the table doesn't always amount to how good we actually are. And we still
mm,
have a ways to go.
mm,
All is not lost, but there's definitely some big questions to be answered on the back of this game. But Do you just think bad day at the office? Are you willing to just kind of put it behind you, or did it bring up some questions that you want answered in the next couple of weeks?
Well, I would say after the final whistle, my overriding emotion was irritation that we couldn't hold on to that point. Um, as far as what I need to see fixed, Thomas Partey, he really needs to, because I honestly just, I don't know, something seems up with him, because he just seems to almost like watch the game go by a little bit. I know that's kind of his style of how he plays, but it's getting to the point where he watches the game go by, and then when he's almost like called to step up, then he might make a mistake, and then that affects him to have a desire to get more involved in the game, and that kind of where he is at the moment for why we bought him, to be a sort of talisman in midfield and to be like, right, we've got our guy, our main guy in midfield. Let's get a couple of other guys. But as long as we've got him there, we don't have to worry about too much. That kind of that's kind of gloss is coming off him a little bit. And it's very concerning because that's not what I want to see. I don't want to be like, it's almost like being in a boat that's got holes and you think you've plugged one hole and all of a sudden you're worrying about another hole and that hole springs up again and water starts coming in again. That's what it feels like now with Thomas. Thomas really needs to sort himself out and be giving us, I love this phrase that you used before, every game, top players, you're getting 7s, you're getting 8s, you're getting the odd 9, but you're definitely not getting any less than 7. With Thomas now, it's almost like 6, 7, 6, 7, maybe the odd 8, and that is not what we need from him as a top player.
Yeah. Arteta said that the senior players need to lead and
Mm,
the young players
spot
need to
on.
follow.
Mm,
And I think that's a fair point, that we just don't have the senior players around this young team to really get them going, and our best leaders are some of our younger players, like Gabriel. He tries to lead from the back. Tierney will try when he's out there, but there's not enough leadership in those key positions that win you games.
mm,
Striker that wins you games. Good
mm,
midfield that wins you games. And I'm
mm,
starting. I never really thought Thomas Partey was a leader type. I've been saying this from the beginning that I don't think he's going to be he's not going to be Vieira in that way, but
mm,
he definitely needs to lead more by example and at least take care of his business. If you're not going to be a leader,
mm,
take care of your business. So make sure your
mm.
touches are good. Make sure your passes are on. Aubameyang, make sure
Spot
you
on.
finish your things. If
Spot
you
on.
can't be a leader, at least take care of your own business. And they're really not doing it at this point. And none of our senior players are in form, which is a huge issue. And yeah, if they don't get in form, I don't really know what we can do. I have not. When's the last time you seen one of the senior players in form,
That's a
like
very
in
good
good
question.
form?
Yeah, no, that's a very good question.
We're talking Pepe, Aubameyang, Lacazette, Thomas Partey,
Yeah, no, I
Xhaka.
can't remember the last 9, 10 out of 10 performance. Like it's been 8 out of push, and it's almost like things have had to happen for them to. It's not like they've started out of the gates 8, touching 9. No, I've not seen that this season, and it's a very concerning thing because it's starting to get tiring sitting down to watch us, and it's all on the kids, bless them. There's only so much kids can do because the one thing about kids, they can be talented, but what you don't expect from a kid is consistency. That's the whole point of youth. You learn through experience to be consistent. So when you've got the senior guys who've got the experience, but they can't be consistent, what's going on there? Like, that's problematic. That is problematic. If you've got senior guys who can't be consistent, that is a problematic issue. And that's how you finish 8th 2 seasons in a row. Like,
I
let's
don't
keep
know
it
if they're
100.
I don't know if they're engaged. That's what I feel like. They're there, but are they engaged? And I think that's where the benefit of having senior players, if you have like a youth project, your senior players need to be connected to this club. That
Mm,
is the biggest thing. Like they
that's a
need to have
good
some sort
point.
of connection to the club because
That's it.
otherwise they
Yeah.
don't give a shit. They really, really
That's a
don't. And I don't think Thomas Partey was brought in for a youth project. I don't think Aubameyang envisioned being in one either. I think it was forced upon us because we finished outside of Europe. And I'm not convinced that they are engaged at the level that Thierry Henry was engaged when we moved to the Emirates. You could not question that guy's commitment. You know that he was playing below his standard, but he stayed and was a part of a youth project. And really just that is the difference. He had a connection to the club. He loved it enough. And we don't have that. And so it's a weird one, but I don't sense that level of commitment. And at least if you're not going to commit to the whole project and stuff, at least commit to your own performances and want to do well for yourself. I think they're letting themselves down as well. But the last thing I want to touch on is the substitutions that were made towards the end of the game. So we needed a goal. I know you're saying that we played for the tie or we played for the draw, but what was the point of swapping Nketiah and Lacazette for Aubameyang there? You know,
Well, yeah, and Odegaard, wasn't it? Yeah. Well, I think
two out of contract players, by the way. That's a big part of why people are upset, because it's two players that haven't signed new deals, and Nketiah in particular, and they come into the game over somebody like a Nicola Pepe, who I feel, again, we have to remember who we're talking about. It's Nicola Pepe, so it's somebody that probably wouldn't have helped us that much. But
well,
what do you think about those substitutions?
No,
Do you
I
think
had no problem with them. I had no problem with those subs, and I'll tell you why. Because ultimately, Odegaard, he basically, my mind is putting on an additional attacker. Odegaard is not going to score or create the chances. Sorry, not create the chances. He's just not going to score the way Laka would score. He's a midfielder, creative midfielder. So he took him off for that. Now with Aubameyang, I think he just got pissed of seeing him miss like really, really good chances. And Eddie, like, he needs to put himself in the shop window. So I think it makes sense why I put Eddie on, because if you're putting yourself in the shop window, how better to do that than equalize or even get the winning goal at Old Trafford? So it makes sense to me why he brought Eddie on, to be honest, because Eddie is a goal scorer. He will score goals in the right environment. I know a lot of Arsenal fans don't really rate Eddie, but as a goal scorer, I think you give him a team where he gets enough consistency and the manager truly, truly believes in him and gives him that time to bed in the way Dominic Calvert-Lewin was given at Everton. I'm telling you, Eddie will get goals. He will get goals. Trust me. He will get goals. So I see why he brought Eddie on, because Aubameyang it was getting embarrassing. It was getting embarrassing with Aubameyang. As far as I'm concerned, it was getting embarrassing. He was missing so many, like an on-form Aubameyang with a put away. It was getting embarrassing. So, yeah, that's my opinion.
I feel like the thing is, like, we're always thinking that whoever didn't play was the answer. And I don't necessarily always feel that way. Like Aubameyang, I believe, I agree with Dublin Gooner that
Totally,
Aubameyang
I
was
agree
never
with
going
him
to
as well.
score.
No,
He
it
was never going
wasn't.
to score.
He had to come off. He had to come
and I
off.
get that Thierry Henry is he's Thierry, but I don't always listen to what past players have to say about what's going on currently at Arsenal, because for him to sit there and say, and again, I love Thierry Henry, but for him to say that Arteta made a mistake, and he didn't understand why he took off Aubameyang, because you need your talisman and your goal scorer and all of that. He's not our talisman. He's not our leader. He's not our captain, and he was never going to score. And he's not you, Thierry. You carried this team on your back, and if we were playing like shit, you would make it up in your mind that you're going to go down there and score. Aubameyang's not you, So sitting there and say, it's almost like he was saying it from his perspective, like, why would you take off your Thierry? He's not Thierry for us. He is somebody
You
that
hit
had
the nail on the
decided
head.
he was done in that game and was adding zilch. He was adding nothing to that game. Now, I do think that some of Arteta's substitutions may have been more to just keep the game solid at 2-2 and just not give it up. I don't necessarily feel like taking out strikers and putting on different strikers makes a huge difference. And if he were going for the game, it would have made more sense to keep Aubameyang on and just add more attackers. But because he never took off a defensive player, I don't think he was necessarily going for it. And in that instance, it was, I'm sick of watching Aubameyang out here fluffing his shots and not pressing. So I'm just going to put in two players that can add more energy up top. That's what I saw. But
Well, I think
Aubameyang was
Lacazette
never going to score. He was not going to score.
No, I totally agree. Like, just basically, as I said, I think Odegaard for Laka makes sense because Laka is a striker, so he wears our number 9. So there's more chance. It is like putting on another attacker, in my opinion. So for me, that makes sense. Now, what Thierry said, let me just show you. Yeah, let me just show you. Can you see my back? Look at my back. See that? Yeah. So for me, this is like I'm wearing his top right now. So he's my guy. I love him to bits. He's my guy, Thierry Henry. You know, legend, absolute legend. And I always got time for what he says, but he was just plain wrong in terms of Aubameyang. And you hit the nail on the head, Jess. The problem with Thierry, someone said it a bit too harsh. You know, one of our boys in the group, he said the problem is he's egotistical. And I wouldn't put in that frame of, I wouldn't say he's egotistical, but what I would say is he only knows how to look at things from how he would do it or who he is playing that position. So he's just thinking, if that was me there and I was having a bad game and you was to take me off, that's so like I could win the game. But like you said, Aubameyang is not Thierry Henry, and he was never looking like he was going to score. He had to come off. So I was happy when he got subbed off.
Yeah, I mean, if you rewatch the game, he was atrocious. Usopp's Rubber Band says, and thank you so much for your super chat. I really appreciate that. Says, I think Pepe is done at Arsenal for sure. That is something that I'll probably do a show on a little bit later, or like maybe early next week, or maybe over the weekend, because we don't have time today. But yeah, Pepe didn't even come on, and also I did not think put him on. I didn't think that. But Tony says the issue with the subs is that he didn't take off a defender. I would have taken off Tommy and risked 4-2. But see, that's the thing. He was thinking about, okay, what looks close and looks safe, so 3-2
Totally.
is something that you can say, you know what, we were right in there. It was a good Man United side, and we went away from home and we were competitive. Whereas if he would have taken off, a defender, and we would have went 5-2, because that's easily what could have happened. United, when they get on a roll, then he can't rationalize it away and use his words to make it seem better. So he
It
took
was
the
risk
3-2.
management. Yeah, it was risk
Yeah,
management. You hit the
he
nail
took
on the
that
head.
3-2. I don't know if you guys have realized this yet, but Arteta is not ever, in my opinion, going to be the guy that goes for it. He's very risk adverse in the way that he sets up his teams, the way that his teams play, and the way that he manages the game throughout. So if you're looking for somebody like an Arsene who's going to take off every single defender and have wingers playing as his fullbacks to go win a game, it's never going to happen, because he's trying to just keep things close. That's why we never really blow out teams. It's why we never really go after it. We are in for tight
But
games, 1-goal margins, not going for it. And that's why when people are like, why don't we play good football? Why don't we do this? I'm like, because we have misprofiled Arteta from the beginning. He may
let's
have,
look at the upside though, Jess. We don't risk it 8-1. Do you get
yeah,
what I mean? So that's an upside, isn't it? You'd rather lose 3-2 than lose 8-1. So there is some benefit to it. I know some of the guys who grew up under Wenger, they probably feel different, but there is some benefit to being risk adverse, especially when the quality is not that high consistently across the board.
no, yeah, like I hear you, and I just feel like the fan base is kind of stuck in Arsene mode, where we're used to always going for it, being the attacking force and trying to beat teams 5-0 and all that kind of stuff. We're never going to get that with Arteta, and so I think we're always going to be a 1-0 to the Arsenal type of team under Arteta, and because I don't see any move towards that type of thing. I've never seen him do anything that's said to me, we're going for it. Nothing really. And when we have tried to go for it, in theory, it's left us exposed and ready for an ass whooping. No, it's like, I don't think he likes doing it. But let's go ahead and end it there. We're almost at an hour and 30 minutes, and there's about 100 of you guys watching. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. Io, where can they find you?
Yeah, I'm really just always chatting.
He's on the quest
Banter.
to get to 1,000 followers, so please follow
Yeah,
him on
please.
Twitter.
Yeah, no, I think I'm quite a good follow actually. So don't want to blow my own trumpet, but yeah, I follow all Gooners back. End of. I'm not on an egotistical. I want to have X amount of thousand followers. I follow all Gooners back because most Gooners on Twitter, I can see their perspective. I might not agree with you, but I can see your perspective. And as long as you love the club, man loves the club. You know, if you love the club, then you're all right with me. So follow me, I'll follow you back, Gooners. Any other club, any other football club, I don't really care. Do whatever you like. I don't care. But Gooners, follow me, I'll follow you back. And it's at
All right, so you
IO
know where to
1886. Sorry. Yeah.
that's where you're gonna follow IO, and you're gonna follow me on Twitter at It's Just if you don't already. I know some of you guys do, but if you don't, go ahead and give me a follow. And She Knows Arsenal at She Knows Arsenal on Twitter. I'll be back. Like, I think I'm gonna try to do shows all this weekend, and then because we also have
Nice.
the game on Monday, correct?
Course,
So
yeah.
and try to do something tomorrow and on Sunday, and just make sure that we just keep the content rolling. But I really appreciate you guys being here with me, having this conversation. Can't say I feel any closer to knowing what the heck is going on with this football club, but I do like talking to you guys, and I will see you guys tomorrow at some point in the day. So, all right. Bye, guys.